My name is Walter Bishop. I'm 68 years old, and I'm standing here telling you this story because I need you to understand something about quiet people, about the ones you overlook, the ones you think are too old, too tired, too broken to fight back. 3 months ago, I buried my wife. Her name was Catherine. We were married for 43 years. 43 years of morning coffee together, of her humming while she cooked, of her hand in mine during every storm life threw at us. And when the cancer finally took her, when I watched her take that last shallow breath in that sterile hospital room with those machines beeping their cold rhythm of death, something inside me died too. But I'm getting ahead of myself. The funeral was on a Tuesday. It was raining. Not the gentle kind of rain that Catherine used to love, the kind she'd stand in the doorway and smile at. No, this was angry rain, harsh, cold, the kind that soaks through your coat and into your bones and makes you feel like the whole damn world is weeping. We held the service at Riverside Memorial. Catherine had picked it out herself 2 years ago when the diagnosis came back the second time. She'd been so calm about it, so practical. "I want you to have everything arranged, Walter," she'd said. "I don't want you scrambling around in grief, spending too much, making yourself sick with worry." That was Catherine, always thinking of me, always protecting me. There weren't many people there. We'd lived quietly, a few neighbors, some folks from the library where Catherine volunteered. My daughter Vanessa showed up in black, her eyes red and swollen. She'd loved her mother. I know she did. I saw it in the way she couldn't look at the casket, in the way her hands shook when she placed those white lilies on top. And then there was him. Brandon, my son-in-law of 3 years, standing there in a suit that probably cost more than my monthly pension, checking his phone. During my wife's funeral, this man was checking his goddamn phone. I wanted to say something. God, I wanted to walk over there and grab that phone and throw it into the rain-soaked earth. But I didn't, because that's not who I am. I'm not a man who makes scenes. I'm not a man who raises his voice. I was a mathematics professor for 37 years. I solved problems with logic, with patience, with careful thought. So I stayed quiet. I stood there with my hands clasped in front of me, feeling the rain soak through my coat, and I watched my wife's casket lower into the ground. After the service, people came back to the house. That's what you do, right? You gather, you eat little sandwiches that taste like cardboard, you drink coffee, you say things like, "She's in a better place," and time heals all wounds, like these empty phrases can somehow fill the crater that death leaves behind. Catherine had prepared for this too. She'd frozen casseroles. She'd left instructions for which dishes to use. Even in death, she was taking care of me. I was in the kitchen, standing at the counter where Catherine used to stand every morning, when I heard Brandon's voice from the living room. "Where does he keep the important stuff?" I froze. "Brandon, not now," Vanessa said, her voice thick with tears. "I'm just saying, we need to know what's what. Your dad's getting old. He's not going to be able to handle all this alone." Old, he called me old like it was a disease, like my 68 years meant my brain had turned to mush. I walked slowly toward the living room, my footsteps silent on Catherine's carefully maintained hardwood floors. Through the doorway, I could see Brandon going through Catherine's desk, her desk, the one she'd had since before Vanessa was born, the one with the little scratches from when Vanessa was 6 and decided to help by organizing with a screwdriver. "Brandon, please," Vanessa said, "can we do this later?" "It's fine, sweetheart. I'm just making sure everything's in order." That's when he found it. The savings book. It was small, navy blue, worn at the edges. Catherine had kept it in the bottom drawer of her desk, tucked beneath some old photographs and letters. I'd seen it 1,000 times over the years. Sometimes I'd catch her writing in it late at night, her reading glasses perched on her nose, a small smile on her face. "What is this?" Brandon said, holding it up. "I think that's Mom's old savings book," Vanessa said quietly. "She used to write down." "This," Brandon laughed. "People still use these. Everything's online now. This is useless." He flipped through the pages, his eyes scanning the numbers Catherine had so carefully written in her neat handwriting. "Look at this. $20 here, $50 there. What's the point?" I stepped into the room. That was Catherine's. Brandon looked at me like he'd just noticed I existed. Yeah, Walter, I know, but seriously, what are you going to do with this? It's just a record of pocket change from decades ago. It's junk. Junk. He called my wife's careful, record-keeping junk. I'll take it, I said, reaching out my hand. Brandon held it away from me. Actually, you know what? We should just toss this stuff out, make room for the things that actually matter, financial statements, property deeds, that kind of thing. He walked toward the kitchen, and I followed, my heart starting to pound in my chest. There were still a few people in the house. Catherine's friend Helen, our neighbor Douglas. They were talking quietly near the window, probably saying more of those useless comforting phrases that do nothing but fill silence. Brandon walked right past them to the trash can. The trash can that still had crumpled napkins and paper plates from the gathering. And with a theatrical gesture, like he was throwing away an old newspaper, he tossed Catherine's savings book into the garbage. There, he said, cleaned up. I stood there frozen. I felt Helen and Douglas turn to look, felt the sudden silence in the room. I felt Vanessa's eyes on me, wide and uncertain. And I said nothing. I didn't yell, I didn't grab the book out of the trash. I didn't tell Brandon what I thought of him, didn't tell him that he was a vulture circling my grief, didn't tell him that if Catherine was still alive, she would have thrown him out of our house. I just stood there, a quiet old man at his wife's funeral, and watched my son-in-law throw away something precious. Dad, Vanessa said softly. It's fine, I said, my voice was steady, calm. It's fine, sweetheart. But it wasn't fine, nothing was fine. The gathering ended eventually. People left with their sympathetic smiles and their casserole dishes. Brandon and Vanessa were the last to go. Brandon put his hand on my shoulder, actually put his hand on my shoulder, and said, Listen, Walter, Vanessa and I are here for you, whatever you need. We'll help you sort through everything, get things organized. You shouldn't have to deal with all this alone. Thank you, I said. We'll come by this weekend, start going through the house, figure out what's what. Sound good? Sure. Vanessa hugged me. She was crying again. I love you, Daddy. I love you too, sweetheart. And then they left, and I was alone in the house I'd shared with Catherine for 43 years, with the silence pressing in on me like a physical weight. I waited until I saw their car pull away, watched through the window until the taillights disappeared down the street. Then I walked to the kitchen trash can and pulled out Catherine's savings book. It smelled like coffee grounds and grief. I wiped it off carefully with a dish towel, one of the ones Catherine had embroidered with little blue flowers, and I sat down at the kitchen table. My hands were shaking. I opened the book and looked at Catherine's handwriting. Neat, precise, each entry dated and recorded with mathematical accuracy. She'd learned that from me, probably, all those years of watching me grade papers, of seeing how I organized everything into columns and rows. The entries went back decades. I saw dates from when Vanessa was in elementary school, from when we took that trip to the coast for our 20th anniversary, from last year, just months before the diagnosis. Catherine had been recording something, tracking something, but what? I closed the book and held it against my chest, and for the first time since she died, I cried, really cried, not the quiet, dignified tears I'd allowed myself at the hospital or at the funeral. This was raw, ugly sobbing, the kind that makes your whole body shake, the kind that comes from somewhere so deep inside you that you didn't even know it existed. I cried for Catherine, for the coffee we'd never share again, for the way she'd never again fall asleep on the couch during our evening shows, for the sound of her voice saying my name. And I cried because I was angry. Not just at Brandon for his disrespect, though God knows that was part of it. I was angry at everything, at the cancer, at the unfairness of it all, at the fact that I was 68 years old and alone and holding a worn savings book like it was the only piece of her I had left. But crying doesn't change anything. I learned that as a child. Crying doesn't solve equations, doesn't grade papers, doesn't bring back the dead. So I stopped crying, and I washed my face, and I made myself a cup of tea. Catherine always said tea helped. I never believed her, but I made it anyway because it was something to do with my hands. That's when I heard them. Vanessa and Brandon, their voices drifting up from the driveway. They must have parked on the street and walked back. Maybe Brandon forgot something, maybe. I'm just saying, we need to move quickly, Brandon said. I moved to the window, staying back in the shadows. Can you please not do this right now? Vanessa said. She sounded exhausted. Baby, I know today was hard. I know you're grieving, but we have to be practical. Your dad is alone in that big house. He can barely take care of himself. He's perfectly capable. Is he really? Did you see him today? He could barely function. He's old, Vanessa. He needs help. So we'll help him. That's what I'm saying. We help him by taking some of this burden off his shoulders. The house alone is a lot to manage, and his finances. What about his finances? I'm just saying we should make sure everything's in order. Get power of attorney, maybe. Help him make smart decisions. I felt something cold settle in my stomach. Power of attorney, Brandon, he just buried his wife. This is not the time. This is exactly the time, before he makes some mistake, before he gets confused and signs something he shouldn't. Look, I know you don't want to think about this stuff, but I'm trying to protect him. Protect us. Protect us. This house is worth at least $800,000, the property alone. Oh my God. What? I'm being realistic. Your mom is gone, your dad is elderly and alone. At some point, probably sooner rather than later, he's going to need to move into a facility. When that happens, this house will need to be sold. I'm just trying to make sure we handle it properly. We? Since when is this we? You're his only child, Vanessa. You're going to inherit everything, which means we're going to inherit everything. I'm just trying to protect our future. There was a long silence. Then Vanessa said, her voice small, can we please go home? Of course, I'm sorry, baby. I know this is hard. I just want what's best for everyone. I heard their car doors slam, heard the engine start, heard them drive away. And I stood there in my dark kitchen, holding Catherine's savings book, and I understood. Brandon hadn't thrown the book away because he thought it was junk. He'd thrown it away because he wanted to erase it, wanted to make sure I didn't have any records of anything, wanted to paint me as a confused old man who couldn't keep track of his own finances. He was setting me up. He wanted the house, wanted control, wanted to push me into some facility and liquidate everything Catherine and I had built over 4 decades of careful saving and modest living. And he thought I was too old, too stupid, too grief-stricken to stop him. I looked down at the savings book in my hands. He'd made a mistake. A big one. The next morning, I woke up early, force of habit from 37 years of teaching 8 a.m. classes. Catherine used to tease me about it, said I'd been programmed like a rooster to wake at dawn, whether I needed to or not. I made coffee, badly, because Catherine had always made the coffee, and I sat at the kitchen table with her savings book. In the daylight, without the shock and grief clouding my vision, I could see it more clearly. The entries weren't random. They followed a pattern. Every month, sometimes twice a month, Catherine had recorded deposits, not withdrawals, deposits. $20, $50, sometimes $100. But where had the money been going? We had a joint checking account, one savings account at First National Bank that we'd had for decades. I would have seen these deposits. Unless... I got up and went to Catherine's desk, the same desk Brandon had rifled through yesterday. I opened the bottom drawer carefully, like Catherine might somehow know if I disrespected her things. Beneath where the savings book had been, there were envelopes, old ones, some yellowed with age. I pulled them out carefully. Bank statements, but not from First National. These were from Pacific Trust Bank, a bank I'd never heard of. The statements went back 20 years, 20 years of accounts I didn't know existed. I opened the most recent one, dated 2 months before Catherine died. The balance made me sit down hard in her desk chair. $372,000. $372,000. I read it again, read the account number, read Catherine's name at the top, read the balance that couldn't possibly be real. But it was real. The statement was real. The monthly entries showing deposits and compound interest and careful growth over 2 decades, it was all real. Catherine had been saving all those little amounts in the savings book, $20 here, $50 there. She'd been taking money from her library volunteer stipend, from the small inheritance when her mother passed, from who knows where else, and she'd been building something. Building this. For me. I found a note tucked into one of the older envelopes, Catherine's handwriting. "My dearest Walter," it said, "if you're reading this, then I'm gone and I'm so sorry. I wanted to tell you about this account so many times, but I kept thinking I'd wait until retirement, until we could really enjoy it together. I wanted it to be a surprise, a gift for all the years you worked so hard to take care of us. This money is yours now, my love. Use it to be happy. Use it to live the life we always talked about. I love you more than all the numbers in all your equations. Forever, your Catherine." I sat there holding that note, and I felt something I hadn't felt since she died. I felt her presence, her love, her careful planning and her determination to take care of me even from beyond the grave. And I felt something else too. I felt Brandon's hand throwing this savings book into the trash. Heard him calling it junk. Heard him talking about getting power of attorney, about my house being worth $800,000, about putting me in a facility. No. No. I stood up, and for the first time in 3 months, I felt clear, focused, like I was standing at a blackboard with a complex equation, knowing exactly which steps to take to solve it. I picked up the phone and called Douglas, my neighbor. He answered on the second ring. "Walter, everything okay?" "Douglas, I need your help with something." "Of course, anything." "I need the name of a good lawyer, someone who specializes in estate planning and elder law." There was a pause, then Douglas said carefully, "Is everything all right? Is someone pressuring you?" "Just give me the name, Douglas." "Patrick O'Brien, he's the best in the city. Helped my mother when her second husband's kids tried to contest the will. He's expensive, but he's worth every penny." "Thank you." I called Patrick O'Brien's office, told the receptionist I needed an urgent appointment. She said the earliest they could do was next week. "This is urgent," I repeated. "Sir, I understand, but Mr. O'Brien's schedule. Tell him it's about financial elder abuse and a $372,000 account that someone is trying to access illegally." She put me on hold. 30 seconds later, she came back. "Mr. O'Brien can see you this afternoon at 4. "I'll be there." I spent the rest of the morning going through everything, every paper in Catherine's desk, every file in our home office, every document that might possibly matter. I found our will. Catherine and I had made it 15 years ago, everything split between us, and if one of us died, everything to the survivor. If both of us died, everything to Vanessa. Simple, standard. But that was 15 years ago, before Brandon, before I understood what people were capable of. I made photocopies of everything, the savings book, the bank statements, Catherine's note. I made 3 sets of copies, one for the lawyer, one for me, one that I put in a safe deposit box at First National that afternoon. At 4 o'clock sharp, I walked into Patrick O'Brien's office. He was younger than I expected, maybe 45, with sharp eyes and a handshake that was firm without being aggressive. His office was lined with law books and framed degrees. And there was a picture on his desk of him with 2 teenage boys. "Mr. Bishop," he said, "tell me what's going on." So I did. I told him about Catherine, about the funeral, about Brandon throwing away the savings book, about the conversation I'd overheard, about the account I'd discovered. Patrick O'Brien listened without interrupting. When I finished, He leaned back in his chair and steepled his fingers. "This son-in-law of yours," he said, "has he filed for power of attorney yet?" "I don't know. If he does, will your daughter sign off on it?" I think so. She loves him, she trusts him. Even though he's pushing to institutionalize you. She doesn't see it that way. She thinks he's trying to help." Patrick nodded slowly. "Okay, here's what we're going to do. First, you're going to update your will. Today, right now, we're going to create a living trust that supersedes the old will. Everything you own goes into the trust, with you as the primary beneficiary and trustee." "What does that accomplish?" "It means that even if someone gets power of attorney over your medical decisions, they can't touch your assets. The trust controls everything. You control the trust. And if something happens to me, then we name a successor trustee, not family, someone objective. Your neighbor Douglas maybe, or a professional trustee." I felt something loosen in my chest, and the account Catherine left me. "That stays in your name alone. We'll transfer it to a new bank, one your son-in-law doesn't know about. We'll set it up so any attempts to access it without proper authorization trigger immediate alerts." "He's going to be angry." "Mr. Bishop, he's already planning to take everything from you. His anger is the least of your concerns." We spent the next 3 hours going through everything. Patrick's assistant brought in forms, printed documents, prepared the trust paperwork. I signed where I was told to sign, initialed where I was told to initial. By the time I left Patrick O'Brien's office, it was dark outside, and I had a folder full of documents that legally protected everything Catherine and I had built. But I wasn't done. When I got home, I called an electronics store and asked about security cameras. The clerk, he couldn't have been more than 20, tried to explain the different systems, the Wi-Fi requirements, the app interfaces. "I need something simple," I said, "something that records everything and is very hard to erase." Okay, we have this system with cloud backup. Even if someone destroys the cameras, the footage is saved remotely." "I'll take it." "Don't you want to know the price?" "I'll take it." He installed it the next day. 3 cameras, one in the living room, one in the kitchen, one in the hallway, all hidden in plain sight, a clock, a bookend, a smoke detector. You'd never know they were there unless you were looking. "These will run 24/7, the installer said. "Everything backs up to the cloud. You can access it from your phone." He showed me how to use the app. I practiced opening it, viewing the feeds, scrolling back through recorded footage. It was easier than I expected. "You expecting trouble?" he asked. "Just being careful." That weekend, Brandon and Vanessa came over. I heard them pull into the driveway and watched from the window as they got out. Brandon was wearing expensive jeans and a polo shirt that probably cost what I used to spend on a week's worth of groceries. Vanessa looked tired. I opened the door before they could knock. "Dad," Vanessa hugged me, "how are you doing?" "I'm managing, sweetheart." We brought lunch. She held up a bag from some fancy organic place downtown. "Brandon thought you might not be eating properly." Brandon smiled, that easy, confident smile of someone who thinks they're winning. "Can't have you wasting away, Walter." We sat in the kitchen and ate overpriced sandwiches that tasted like cardboard with fancy names. Brandon made small talk about his work, something in real estate development that I'd never fully understood and never cared to. Then he shifted. "So Walter, Vanessa and I were talking, and we think it might be good to get some help for you. Around the house, you know." "I'm fine." "I'm sure you are, but this is a big house for one person. Maybe we could look into some services. Someone to clean, someone to help with meals." "I can clean, I can cook." "Of course you can, but why should you have to? You've earned the right to relax." He leaned forward, his voice taking on that tone people use when they're talking to children or the mentally impaired. "And we should probably talk about your finances. Make sure all your bills are being paid, that kind of thing." "Everything's paid." "Are you sure? Have you checked recently?" Sometimes things slip through the cracks. I looked at him across my kitchen table, at his perfectly styled hair and his expensive clothes and his confident smile. I was a mathematics professor for 37 years, I said quietly. I think I can handle basic accounting. Of course, I didn't mean to suggest. Dad, we're just worried about you, Vanessa interrupted. She put her hand over mine. Mom handled so much. We want to make sure you're not overwhelmed. Your mother taught me well. Brandon smiled again. I'm sure she did, but just to be safe, maybe we could go through things together, make sure everything's in order. There might be accounts or policies you don't know about. Oh, the irony. That's not necessary. It's no trouble. Actually, I brought some paperwork. He pulled a folder from his bag. Just some standard stuff. Power of attorney forms mainly. Would make it easier for us to help you with medical appointments, dealing with insurance companies, that kind of thing. There it was. I looked at the folder like it was a snake coiled on my kitchen table. I don't think I need that. Dad, it's just a precaution, Vanessa said, in case something happens and you can't make decisions for yourself. Nothing's going to happen to me. We hope not, but Mom got sick so fast. If something like that happened to you, then I'll deal with it then. Brandon's smile tightened slightly. Walter, I really think you should at least look at the paperwork. Your lawyer probably recommended you have something like this in place. I have a lawyer. Well, you should. Everyone should. Estate planning is important, especially at your age. At my age, there it was again. I'll think about it, I said. We finished lunch in uncomfortable silence. Vanessa tried to fill the quiet with talk about her job, about a vacation they were planning, about anything that wasn't the elephant in the room. When they left, Brandon squeezed my shoulder again, that proprietary gesture that made my skin crawl. Think about what we discussed, Walter. We just want to help. I closed the door behind them and immediately checked the camera feeds on my phone. Perfect, every word recorded, every gesture captured. The visits continued over the next few weeks, sometimes with Vanessa, sometimes just Brandon. He'd show up with groceries I didn't need, mail he'd picked up from my box without asking, helpful suggestions about downsizing and senior living communities. Each time he'd bring up the power of attorney, each time I'd deflect. And each time the cameras recorded everything. I watched him go through my mail when he thought I wasn't looking, watched him open my desk drawers, watched him take photos of documents with his phone. He was building a case, collecting evidence that I was incompetent, unable to manage my own affairs. But so was I. I called Patrick O'Brien weekly, updated him on every visit, every conversation. He added it all to a file that was growing thicker. He's getting desperate, Patrick said during one of our calls. That's good. Desperate people make mistakes. What kind of mistakes? The kind that lands them in legal trouble. Keep doing what you're doing. Keep recording. Keep documenting. And whatever you do, don't sign anything he gives you. I had no intention of signing anything. 4 weeks after Catherine's funeral, Brandon showed up alone. Vanessa was at work, he said. He just wanted to check in on me. He looked different, more agitated, less confident. Walter, we need to talk seriously. About what? About your situation. I've been patient, but this can't go on. You're not taking care of yourself. The house is a mess. The house is fine. It's not fine. There are dishes in the sink, dust everywhere. The yard looks like hell. I'll get to it. When you're barely functioning, Walter, I'm trying to help you, but you won't let me. You won't sign the POA. You won't even discuss selling this house. Who said anything about selling the house? He stopped, realized his mistake. I just meant, eventually, when you're ready to move somewhere more manageable. I'm not moving. You can't stay here forever. You're 68 years old, alone in a 4-bedroom house. It's not sustainable. It's my house. It's a house that's worth a fortune that you're letting rot because you're too stubborn to admit you need help. There it was, his mask slipping, his real face showing through. Get out. What? I said get out of my house. Walter, you're being unreasonable. This is my house, Catherine's and my house, and I'm telling you to leave. Brandon stood there, his face red, his hands clenched into fists. For a moment, I thought he might actually hit me, thought I might finally see the violence that I suspected lurked beneath his polished exterior. But he didn't. He grabbed his jacket and stormed toward the door. Then he turned back. You're making a mistake, old man. You think you can handle all this alone. You think you know better than everyone. You're going to fall or forget to pay a bill or do something stupid, and then everyone will see what I've been saying all along. You're not capable. And when that happens, when you end up in the hospital or worse, don't expect me to clean up your mess. He slammed the door hard enough to rattle the pictures on the wall. I sat down in Catherine's chair and pulled up the camera footage on my phone. Got it all. Every threat, every insult, every word. That night, Vanessa called. Dad, Brandon told me what happened. Did he? He said you kicked him out, that you were acting confused and hostile. Is that what he said? Dad, he's trying to help. Why are you fighting him on this? Because he wants to steal everything your mother and I built, I thought. Because he's a vulture in expensive clothes. Because he sees me as nothing but an obstacle between him and a payday. But I didn't say that. Sweetheart, I'm fine. I don't need the kind of help Brandon's offering. You're alone in that house. You're grieving. You're not thinking clearly. I'm thinking perfectly clearly. Are you, because Brandon says you haven't been paying bills, that the house is falling apart? Brandon is lying. Silence, then coldly, why would he lie? Ask yourself why he's so interested in my finances. Ask yourself why he's pushing so hard for power of attorney. Because he cares about you. No, Vanessa, he doesn't. I can't believe you're doing this. My mother just died, and now you're accusing my husband of what? What exactly are you accusing him of? I wanted to tell her everything. Wanted to explain about the savings book, about the account, about Catherine's careful planning. Wanted to show her the camera footage of Brandon going through my desk, of him taking pictures of my documents, of him revealing his true intentions when he thought I wasn't listening carefully enough. But I couldn't, not yet. I'm not accusing him of anything. I'm just asking you to think about why he's so invested in controlling my life. Oh my God, you've lost it. You've actually lost it. Vanessa. Don't call me. Don't call Brandon. When you're ready to be reasonable, when you're ready to accept the help we're trying to give you, let me know. She hung up. I sat there holding the phone, feeling like I'd been punched in the stomach. I'd lost my daughter, my only child, the little girl I'd taught to ride a bike, who'd fallen asleep on my chest as a baby, who'd made me breakfast in bed on Father's Day with eggs that were somehow both burnt and raw. I'd lost her. Because of him. The anger that washed over me then was like nothing I'd ever felt. It was hot and sharp and all-consuming. It made my hands shake and my vision blur and my heart pound so hard I thought I might be having an attack. But I breathed, counted to 10 like I used to tell my students to do when they got frustrated with a difficult problem, reminded myself that anger makes people stupid. And I couldn't afford to be stupid. I called Patrick O'Brien. He's escalating, I said. Good, let him. He's turned my daughter against me. That's harder, but Walter, we have everything we need. Every threat, every attempt to access your information, every lie he's told, when this goes to court. I don't want it to go to court, I want him gone. Then we need to move faster. I'll file an harassment cease and desist. We'll put him on notice that his behavior is being documented and that any further attempts to access your financial information or property will be treated as attempted fraud. Will that stop him? Probably not, but it will make him sloppy, and when he gets sloppy, we'll have him. 2 days later, Brandon got the cease and desist letter. I know because he showed up at my house at 8 in the evening, pounding on the door hard enough to wake the neighbors. "Open up, Walter, I know you're in there." I checked the camera feed. He was alone, red-faced, furious. I didn't open the door. "What the hell is this?" He waved papers at the door. "You're accusing me of harassment, of attempted fraud. Are you insane?" I picked up my phone and dialed 911. "This is bullshit. I've been trying to help you, trying to keep you from destroying yourself, and this is how you repay me." The operator answered, 911, "What's your emergency?" "There's a man at my door," I said calmly. "He's threatening me. I've asked him to leave multiple times, but he won't." "What's your address?" I gave it to her, while Brandon continued to rage outside. "Officers are on their way. Stay inside and stay away from the door." "Thank you." "You're going to regret this, old man," Brandon shouted. "You think you're so smart. You think you can just cut us out. That house should be Vanessa's. That money should be Vanessa's. You're going to die soon anyway. Why are you being so selfish?" The police arrived in 4 minutes. I watched through the window as they talked to Brandon, as his rage deflated into false concern, as he tried to spin the story in his favor. But the cameras had caught everything. An officer knocked on my door. I opened it. "Mr. Bishop, I'm Officer Chen. Are you all right?" "I'm fine." "Do you know this man?" "He's my son-in-law. I've asked him repeatedly not to come to my house. Tonight he showed up uninvited and refused to leave. He says he's concerned about your welfare, says you've been acting erratically." "I'm sure he does." Officer Chen looked at me carefully, probably trying to determine if I was the confused old man Brandon claimed or something else entirely. "I'm a retired mathematics professor," I said. "I'm of sound mind. I've retained legal counsel specifically because my son-in-law has been pressuring me to sign over power of attorney and has been making threats about my property." "I see. Do you want to press charges?" "I want him to leave me alone." Officer Chen nodded, went back to Brandon. They talked for a few more minutes, and then Brandon got in his car and drove away. But not before looking back at my house with an expression of pure hatred. Officer Chen came back to the door. "He's going to leave you alone, sir. If he comes back, call us immediately." "I will, thank you, officer." After they left, I sat in the dark living room and watched the footage from the cameras. Brandon's rant, his threats, his admission that he thought he was entitled to the house, to the money, to everything. I saved it all to 3 different drives. Then I did something I should have done weeks ago. I called Douglas. "I need you to be a witness to something," I said. "Of course, what's going on?" "Tomorrow morning, I'm going to the bank. I need you to come with me." "The bank, Walter, is this about?" "Just come with me, please." The next morning, Douglas picked me up at 9. He was 72, retired from a career as a civil engineer, and one of the most steadily competent people I'd ever known. If I was going to do this, I needed someone like Douglas beside me. We drove to Pacific Trust Bank. It was in a nice part of the city, all glass and modern architecture. The kind of place Catherine would have driven past every week without ever thinking to go inside. But she had gone inside. For 20 years, she'd been coming here, making deposits, building something for us. I walked up to the reception desk with Catherine's savings book in my hand and Douglas at my side. "I'd like to access my account," I told the young woman at the desk. She smiled professionally. "Of course, sir. Do you have your account number?" I opened the savings book and showed her the number Catherine had carefully written on the first page. The woman typed it into her computer. Her smile faded. "One moment, sir." She picked up a phone and spoke quietly into it. A minute later, a man in a suit approached. He was maybe 50, with careful eyes and a practiced manner. "Mr. Bishop," he said, "I'm Gerald Reeves, the branch manager. Could you come with me, please?" He led us to a private office in the back. Glass walls, but privacy blinds that he closed as soon as we were inside. "Mr. Bishop, I need to see some identification." I showed him my driver's license. He compared it to something on his computer screen. Then he looked at Douglas. "And this gentleman is?" "My neighbor and witness, Douglas Kimball." Gerald Reeves nodded slowly. Then he hit a button on his desk. "Security," he said into an intercom, "lock the front entrance, nobody leaves, and call the police." My heart started pounding. Douglas stood up. "What's going on?" "Please sit down, Mr. Kimball," Gerald Reeves said. His voice was steady but firm. "Mr. Bishop, where did you get that savings book?" "It belonged to my wife." "Your late wife, Catherine Bishop?" "Yes." "And you're saying this account belongs to you?" "It belonged to my wife. She passed away 3 months ago." Gerald Reeves turned his computer monitor so I could see it. On the screen was Catherine's account, the one with $372,000. But that's not what made my blood run cold. There were notes in red across the screen, flags, alerts. "ATTMPTED fraud," one said. "POA documents rejected," said another. "Notify AUTHRITIS if WLTR Bishop ATTMPTS access." I looked at Gerald Reeves in shock. "What is this?" "Mr. Bishop, 2 weeks ago, a man claiming to have power of attorney over your affairs attempted to access this account. He presented documents that appeared to be signed by you. He said you were experiencing dementia and that you'd been institutionalized. He tried to transfer the entire balance to a new account." The room seemed to tilt. "Brandon. He'd forged power of attorney documents. He'd tried to steal Catherine's account." "Those documents were fake," I said. "Yes, our verification department determined that. The signature didn't match our records, and when we tried to contact you at the phone number on file, it had been disconnected." "I didn't disconnect my phone." "We believe the man changed the contact information in our system during a previous visit. He was very convincing. He knew details about your wife, about your account history. He said he was your son-in-law and that he was trying to protect you from financial exploitation." The irony was so sharp it could cut. "He's the one trying to exploit me." "We understand that now. That's why we flagged the account. If anyone attempted to access it, including you, we were instructed to lock down and call the police. We needed to verify that you were legitimate and not an accomplice." Douglas spoke up. "So you're calling the police on us?" "I'm calling the police to report an attempted fraud and to verify Mr. Bishop's identity." Gerald Reeves looked at me. "I apologize for the drama, but given what happened, we couldn't be too careful." The police arrived, different officers this time. They took statements from me, from Douglas, from Gerald Reeves. They looked at the savings book, at Catherine's note, at the forged power of attorney documents that Brandon had submitted. "This is felony fraud," one of the officers said. "Attempted theft of a considerable amount. Do you want to press charges?" Did I want to press charges? Did I want to watch Brandon be arrested, prosecuted, put in jail? Yes. God help me, yes. "I want to press charges," I said. "We'll need you to come to the station and make a formal statement." I spent the next 3 hours at the police station going through everything, every visit, every threat, every attempt to access my finances, the camera footage, the cease and desist letter, Officer Chen's report from 2 nights ago. It all painted a picture of a man systematically trying to seize control of my life and finances. "We'll issue a warrant for his arrest," the detective told me. "Given the amount involved and the forged documents, he's looking at significant charges." "What about my daughter? Was she involved?" "I don't know. I don't think so." We'll investigate. If she was complicit, she'll face charges too. If she was manipulated, she won't. I thought about Vanessa, my little girl, thought about her crying at Catherine's funeral, thought about her defending Brandon, thought about the last time we spoke when she'd called me unreasonable and told me not to contact her. Go easy on her, I said, if you can. The detective nodded. We'll do our best. Brandon was arrested the next day. I wasn't there to see it, but Douglas's son, who happened to be friends with someone at the police department, told us the details. Brandon had been at work, meeting with clients, when the officers arrived. They'd walked into his expensive office in his expensive building and put him in handcuffs in front of his colleagues. He'd tried to argue, tried to claim it was a misunderstanding, tried to say I was confused and had falsely accused him. But the evidence was overwhelming: the forged documents, the video footage, the testimony from the bank, the pattern of harassment. He was denied bail due to flight risk, locked up while awaiting trial. Vanessa called me that night. She was crying so hard I could barely understand her. Dad, they arrested Brandon. They're saying he tried to steal from you, that he forged documents. It's not true, is it? Tell me it's not true. I wanted to protect her, wanted to lie and say it was all a mistake. But I couldn't. It's true, sweetheart. A sound came from her then, not quite a scream, not quite a sob, something in between. Why didn't you tell me? I tried to warn you. No, you didn't. You just acted paranoid and pushed us away. He threw your mother's savings book in the trash, Vanessa. At her funeral, he called it junk. What are you talking about? So I told her all of it: the savings book, the secret account, Catherine's note, Brandon's attempts to forge power of attorney, the bank lockdown, everything. When I finished, there was a long silence. Mom left you that money. She left us that money for our retirement, for our future. And Brandon tried to steal it. Yes. Oh God, she started crying again. Oh God, Dad, I'm so sorry. I didn't know. I swear I didn't know. I know, sweetheart. He told me you were getting confused, that you needed help. He showed me bills that he said you'd forgotten to pay. Those bills were paid. He said the house was falling apart. The house is fine. He said, her voice broke, he said you were going to hurt yourself if we didn't intervene, that we had to act fast before something terrible happened. He was setting me up. How long was he planning this? I don't know, maybe from the beginning, maybe from the day he met you and realized your parents had assets worth taking. That thought seemed to destroy something in her. She made that sound again, that awful sound of something breaking. Vanessa, listen to me. This isn't your fault. I brought him into our family. I married him. I defended him to you. You loved him, or you thought you did. He lied to you just like he tried to lie to everyone else. I should have seen it. I should have known. He was good at hiding it. These people always are. We talked for another hour. She cried. I cried. We talked about Catherine, about the money, about the future. Finally, she said, "Can I come see you tomorrow?" Of course. I need to see Mom's note. I need to feel close to her. Come whenever you want. This is your home too. She showed up the next morning looking like she hadn't slept. Her eyes were red and swollen, her hair was pulled back messily, and she was wearing the same clothes from yesterday. I held her while she cried on my doorstep, held my little girl while her world fell apart. Inside, I showed her everything: the savings book, the bank statements, Catherine's note. Vanessa read the note 3 times, her tears falling onto the paper. She was always so careful with money, Vanessa said. Remember how she'd clip coupons, how she'd shop the sales. She was saving every penny she could. For you, for us. Vanessa looked up at me. Dad, I'm filing for divorce. You don't have to decide that right now. Yes, I do. I can't be married to someone who tried to steal from my father, who lied to me, who manipulated me into thinking she stopped, started again. He made me doubt you, my own father. He made me think you were losing your mind. He was very convincing. That doesn't make it okay. That doesn't make what I said to you okay. Vanessa, I told you not to call me. I chose him over you. After everything you and Mom did for me, after 43 years of watching you two love each other, I chose a man I'd known for 3 years over my own father. I took her hands. You were manipulated. He's good at it. Probably had practice. You think he's done this before. I think men like Brandon don't suddenly become con artists. They practice, they refine. You were probably not the first person he targeted. That thought seemed to both horrify and oddly comfort her. Horrify because of what it said about Brandon. Comfort because it meant she wasn't stupid for falling for it. The trial was set for 4 months later. In that time, things changed. Vanessa moved back home, not into her old bedroom. She wasn't a child anymore, but into the guest room. She said she couldn't stand being in the apartment she'd shared with Brandon. Said every corner reminded her of the lies. We became a team. She helped me sort through Catherine's things, helped me figure out the account, helped me decide what to do with the money. Mom wanted you to be happy, Vanessa said one night over dinner. So what would make you happy? I thought about it. I want to honor her. She spent 20 years saving this money. I want to use it for something she'd be proud of. We set up a scholarship fund at the university where I'd taught. The Catherine Bishop Memorial Scholarship for women studying mathematics. Full tuition, books, and living expenses for one student each year. We donated to the Cancer Research Center where Catherine had been treated. Not a huge amount, just enough to name a room. The Catherine Bishop Reading Room. A quiet place where patients and families could escape the beeping machines and the antiseptic smell and just breathe. We fixed up the house, not because it needed fixing, but because Catherine had always wanted to renovate the kitchen. She'd cut pictures out of magazines, had folders full of ideas she'd never implemented because we were always saving for the future. Well, the future was now. We gave her the kitchen she'd dreamed of. White cabinets and marble countertops, and a big window over the sink where morning light streamed in. The trial came. I sat in the courtroom with Vanessa on one side and Douglas on the other. Patrick O'Brien was there too, not as my lawyer, but as support. Brandon was led in wearing an orange jumpsuit. He looked smaller somehow, diminished. When he saw me, his face twisted with hatred. The prosecution laid it out methodically: the forged documents, the attempted theft, the harassment, the manipulation. They played the camera footage, showed Brandon going through my desk, showed him ranting on my porch, showed him admitting he thought I'd die soon and the house should be Vanessa's. The jury watched, with expressions ranging from disgust to anger. Brandon's lawyer tried to argue that he'd been genuinely concerned about my welfare, that he'd made errors in judgment but had no criminal intent. But the forged power of attorney killed that defense. You don't accidentally forge someone's signature on legal documents. The jury deliberated for 3 hours. Guilty on all counts. Brandon's face went white when the verdict was read. He looked at Vanessa, maybe hoping for sympathy or support. She looked away. He was sentenced to 5 years in prison and ordered to pay restitution, though there was nothing to restitute since he hadn't actually stolen anything, just tried to. After the sentencing, Vanessa and I walked out of the courthouse into bright sunshine. "Is it over?" she asked. "It's over." I don't feel relieved, I just feel empty. That's grief. You're mourning the life you thought you were going to have. The life that was never real. No, but you didn't know that. You get to grieve it anyway. We went to Catherine's grave. We'd had a headstone installed. Simple grey granite with her name, her dates, and a single line. She multiplied love, divided sorrow, added joy, and subtracted nothing from anyone's life. Vanessa had written it. I'd cried when she showed me. "Hi, Mom," Vanessa said, kneeling down and touching the stone. We protected it. We protected what you built, and we're using it the way you wanted, to help people, to make things better. I knelt beside her. Thank you, Catherine, for everything, for 43 years of love, for the secret you kept, for trusting me with it. I promise I won't waste it. I promise I'll honor you. We sat there for a long time, in the sunshine, beside Catherine's grave. Eventually, Vanessa said, "What are you going to do now, Dad?" "What do you mean?" "You've got this money, you've got time. What do you want to do?" I thought about it, about the years ahead of me, about growing old in the house Catherine and I had shared, about the scholarship students who'd benefit from her saving, about the cancer patients who'd read in her memorial room. "I want to live," I said, "really live, not just exist. Catherine spent 20 years building this gift for me. The least I can do is use it to build a life she'd be proud of. She'd be proud of you no matter what." "Maybe, but I want to be sure." 6 months later, I was sitting in my renovated kitchen, drinking coffee that I'd finally learned to make properly, when there was a knock at the door. It was a young woman, maybe 22. She was carrying a backpack and looked nervous. "Professor Bishop." "I'm not a professor anymore, just Walter." "I'm Maria Santos. I'm the recipient of the Catherine Bishop Memorial Scholarship." "Oh, come in, please." She stepped into the house cautiously. "I wanted to thank you in person. This scholarship, it's changed my life. I'm the first person in my family to go to university. My parents are immigrants. We don't have money for tuition. Without this scholarship, I couldn't study mathematics. I'd be working at my uncle's restaurant." "What year are you?" "Second year. I want to be an engineer." I smiled. Catherine would have loved that. She always said women needed to take up more space in STEM fields. "Can I ask, what was she like?" So I told her, not the whole story. Maria didn't need to know about Brandon and the betrayal and the trial. But I told her about Catherine the woman, about how she'd loved books, about how she'd hummed while she cooked, about how she'd believed in saving for the future while still finding joy in the present. "She sounds amazing," Maria said when I finished. "She was. I promise I won't waste this opportunity. I'll work hard. I'll make her proud." "You already have." After Maria left, I sat in Catherine's kitchen, our kitchen, and I felt something I hadn't felt in a long time. Peace. Not happiness exactly. You don't get happiness after losing someone you loved for 43 years, but peace. The quiet certainty that I'd done right by Catherine, that her secret savings, her careful planning, her 20 years of small sacrifices were being used for good. Brandon was in prison, Vanessa was healing, the house was maintained, Catherine's memory was honored. And me, I was okay, not great, not whole, but okay. I picked up my phone and pulled up the camera app. Not the security cameras, I'd had those removed after the trial, just the regular camera. I took a picture of the kitchen, the white cabinets, the marble countertops, the morning light streaming through the window. Then I opened my messages and sent the picture to Vanessa with a simple caption. She would have loved this. 3 dots appeared immediately. Then, she would have loved you. I smiled. That evening, I did something I'd been thinking about for months. I pulled out Catherine's savings book, the real one, not the photocopies I'd given to the lawyers and the bank. I sat at the kitchen table with a pen. And I started writing. Not numbers this time, words. Today, Maria Santos came to visit. She's our first scholarship recipient. Catherine, you would have adored her. She's brilliant and determined, and she has your kind eyes. I wrote about the trial, about Vanessa, about the house renovations, about learning to live alone in a space that still smelled like Catherine's perfume. I wrote about grief and anger and betrayal, about Brandon and what he'd tried to do. But mostly, I wrote about love. About 43 years of small moments, about coffee in the morning and crossword puzzles at night, about the way Catherine would touch my shoulder when she passed behind my chair, about the sound of her voice saying my name. I wrote until my hand cramped. until the pages of the savings book were full of my messy handwriting instead of Catherine's neat numbers. And when I was done, I closed the book and put it back in her desk drawer. Not hidden, not thrown away, just kept safe. Because some things, the important things, aren't about the money at all. They're about the love that created them, the sacrifice behind them, the intention woven into every choice. Catherine had saved for 20 years to give me security, to give me freedom, to give me a future without financial worry. But the real gift wasn't the money. It was knowing that even when she knew she was dying, even when the cancer was eating her from the inside, even when every day was pain and exhaustion, she was still thinking of me, still protecting me, still loving me with every fiber of her being. That's what Brandon never understood. That's what he couldn't steal, no matter how many documents he forged or how many lies he told. You can't steal love, you can't forge devotion. You can't manipulate genuine care. All you can do is stand in awe of it and hope that someday, somehow, you'll be worthy of receiving it. If you agree with my opinion, kindly hit the like button, subscribe to the channel, and let me know in the comment if you would have the same thing I did if you were in my shoes. My wife loved me all her life, even when she knew she was dying, and I knew I was worthy of Catherine's love. She told me so in that note, in every entry in that savings book, in every moment of our 43 years together. And that, not the money, not the house, not the victory in court, that is what I carry with me. That is what gives me peace. That is what makes me stand up every morning and brew coffee and face another day without her. Because she loved me. And nothing, not death, not time, not all the Brandons in the world, can take that away. My name is Walter Bishop. I'm 68 years old. And at my wife's funeral, my son-in-law threw away something he thought was worthless. But he was wrong. It was priceless. And I made sure he understood that difference.